The following show and broadcast is a production of Better Savannah, an independent expenditure committee dedicated to better policy outcomes at the state and local level. The views, opinions, and statements made by the hosts and/or their guests do not necessarily reflect the views of Better Savannah.
Before we lost our sense of community in our neighborhoods, I think now, since finally we can have this moratorium and start making positive steps to address this issue, this is the number one thing that residents talk to me about. This is one of the number one things that residents have emailed about. This is what residents want. And for those of you that aren't residents here, I'm sorry, you are not my constituents. And I am trying to operate and represent the residents of this island. And
Mack Kitchens, I live at number 6 Alger. I had a big speech to write that I wrote. But we've all heard the arguments. I think it's probably 6 years ago I got involved with STVR and trying to do something about the quality of life for residents in the neighborhoods.
Savannah needs additional tourism. Savannah needs additional tourism.
I mean, I appreciate our tourism community. I appreciate our hoteliers in particular.
What's up, everybody? It's Chuck here. John will be here in just a second. It's Thursday, September 2nd, and it's our 51st episode of the Better Savannah podcast. It was the best of times, and it was the worst of times. A famous line from Dickens to start A Tale of Two Cities. And tonight's show is called A Tale of Two City Councils, A Tale of Two Councils. For those of you who know John and I, you'll know that we were very big in fighting and trying to shape the STVR policy in Savannah a few years back. And this has been a continued issue on Tybee Island, kind of ever since the advent of the VRBO, Airbnb type of technology back in, I'll say about 2014. Okay, guys. So, in the last 8 to 10 years, you've seen this huge rush to turn what were residential properties, okay, into quote unquote small businesses that are designed solely for the purpose of renting out a home for the purposes of somebody to vacation in on a short-term basis. That's why they're called STVRs, short-term vacation rentals. So City Council of Tybee Island has been pressured to do something about this issue for the longest amount of time, and previous councils, previous mayors, including Mayor Jason Gutzman, who's been on this program several times, failed to act in a way that would provide some relief and quality of life guarantee to the residents of Tybee Island. So with that kind of introduction on the Tybee side, and I'm actually thinking we're going to do this in a 2-part series, guys, because there's going to be a lot of content tonight. City Council Savannah was simultaneously, we were watching these two shows, or these two council meetings last week, City Council of Savannah was simultaneously bogged down in another special use permit hearing, this time for a business that wants to become a quote-unquote restaurant in the design district on Whitaker Street here in the downtown area. So we got a lot to talk about on that main topic, but I want to first just welcome John back from vacation. You had a really good time. I saw some pictures and some videos and several things that you shared while you were there. Why don't you give us a synopsis and a recap,
Sure.
John?
Sure, Chuck. My California passport expired, so I was escorted out of the state, much to the chagrin of the dispensary and taqueria communities, but I will return. I want to thank you for carrying the show and keeping everything, lubed up and running along. It's great to have you to count on. You did a fantastic job, and I'll do the same for you as soon as you get off to your own Shangri-La.
I hear you.
Highlights quickly on my trip. I visited a place called the Colton House in downtown Monterey, Chuck.
Okay.
And the Colton House is a very small wood frame structure where the California Constitution was drafted and signed.
Okay.
In 1850. Monterey, of course, was the original capital of. Hello, Rebecca. Thanks for joining us. Monterey was the original capital when, California went from Spanish colonial rule to Mexican rule when Mexico got its independence in 1820, and then of course the gold rush. So it was really great to be in the room and literally stand right over the very desk that California statehood kind of germinated from. I also enjoyed the Mission Carmel because I'm on a quest to visit many missions. There were 21. And Father Junipero Cerro is entombed and buried in the Carmel mission. So, it was just dripping in history and colonialism and bad policy, Chuck, everywhere. But it is, that's the history. Interesting note, downtown Monterey, in front of every hotel, every restaurant, every shop, free 7 days a week, 2-hour parking. No meters, nothing. Just free parking everywhere and plenty of it. Also point out that there was excellent Mexican food everywhere. So I got a few extra California pounds. And I want everyone to know that every other car on California roadways is a Tesla or a Prius. So they really don't care how high gas prices get. You know what I mean? Everybody goes, oh my God, it's almost $5 a gallon. Yeah. Regular was $4.
Yeah, they're not filling up anymore.
Yeah. A Prius will run for 2 weeks on a 10-gallon tank. And Tesla's, of course, an electric car. So I also played, I hadn't done this in, 2 decades, but I played 2 rounds of Frisbee golf at official courses in the Los Angeles area. And my God, do those guys take it seriously these days?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, those are some of the easiest videos to get stuck on Instagram and Facebook is some of those Frisbee golf stuff. So,
3-week tour of California did me just right. Thanks for shouldering all the work on behalf of the show.
And I want to thank Rebecca Rose, one of our members, for co-hosting the show while you were gone with me. You did a great job. Our episode 50, which was our Weeping Time special, was one of our most viewed episodes. Which again, kind of tangential. Tourism issue, historic preservation issue, quality of life issue with the Salvation Army thing at the site being given the special use. All kind of just segues really well. We're kind of on a nice tourism kick here the last couple episodes, and I think it's important as we wind this year down. Go ahead.
Can I make an observation after being happily stranded in Central and Northern California for 3 weeks?
Sure.
Santa Cruz County has a 78% vaccination rate, Chuck. So when you subtract out the youth population that's too young to officially get it, I mean, and on top of that, everyone wears a mask. So I come home after 3 weeks of that experience, and what do I see? The first time I get my car and take off and get to Whitaker and turn right, 2 trolleys packed with tourists, both of them following one another, and not a single person that I could see was wearing a mask. So,
well, you know, the mask issue, the vaccine issue aside, at least they were running trolleys that were full. I keep seeing trolleys with 3 passengers total in them, and it's like, what a waste of natural gas.
Well, that's, you know, if they had elected us to council, I'm sure we would have by now passed an ordinance that says that trolleys don't leave the visitor center unless they're at least 50% full. Wouldn't you?
I'm sure we would have had another brick through another window somewhere. But that's an inside joke for those of us who know us there. Right. So let's get into the meat of this show. I was telling our viewers while you were in the background, John. I think we're going to do a part 1 or 2 on this episode because there's just so much to talk about. So I want to focus this show on Tybee Island, and just let you introduce our guest. Our guest for tonight is Mack Kitchens, who's a candidate for city council. All of the seats are at large on Tybee Island. There are 3 seats up for election, and the top 3 vote getters.
November.
This is this November, one of the 2 main municipal races here in Port Wentworth in the county. So why don't you just give a brief introduction for Mack here? I put that, you know, a lot of people who know him doesn't really need an introduction, but for our viewers in Savannah who may not know enough about Tybee, why don't you give us a little introduction, John?
Sure. I met Mack when he was building another fabulous home for a very good friend of mine out on Hawaii Island. Mack's a custom house home builder. He's very detailed oriented. He works fast. He's much in demand. Most people know of Mack probably from his kiteboarding and ocean experiences at Tybee. You know, when somebody goes missing on the water, it's usually Mack that finds them or is called to look out for them. I know he's not probably very comfortable with the accolades that get showered on him, but they're richly deserved. And as a guy who spent a lot of time, 40 years in the water, my hat's off to Mack. He's still in it. He knows it, and there's nobody that you'd rather have looking out after you if you got stuck in a riptide or lost your way in a kayak or were struggling in the water. So I can't say enough good things about Mack's contributions to the island. And welcome to the show, Mack.
Oh, thank you. And we have a great Frisbee golf course down here, John.
Do you really?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, Chuck's giving us a little filler here. Thank you, Chuck.
I was like, where did that come from?
He's definitely got, like, you know, that's what I've asked around about you, like 5 people in Tybee I know, and like the Baywatch, like, this is the guy. It's like the main response is like, this guy will save your life. No matter whether you like it or not, and you'll never see it coming, and you'll just jump in the water and save you, and do CPR, and then walk over to the bar and have a couple to tie it all off.
Yeah, and when he's just barely winded, he goes after the short-term vacation rentals with such vigor and aplomb. I don't know how he does it. So,
thanks for coming on the show tonight, Mack.
Well, thank you guys for having me. That was a pretty outstanding introduction, I'd say.
Well, let's see how we do with the rest of the show, buddy. How long have you lived on Tybee, Mack?
Well, I was raised on Tybee originally. I left. I think I was 20 years old, and I came back in '93, and I've been here since '93. So Yeah,
Four-
pretty good. Pretty good.
Wow. That must make you one of what, 200 residents, maybe tops?
Um, we
It's
got
a
a few
number.
more than that, but not very many more, John. So,
All right.
yeah, when we lose somebody, it's very noticeable. And a community should work as life does, basically. Generations move in and they stay, and they pass away, and either their predecessors or another families move in and take over where they left off, and everybody kind of knows everybody. Tybee's like one huge neighborhood. I mean, it always has been, and our buffers, we don't really have buffers more than just a line saying, okay, this is commercial, this is residential. You step over that line, you're immediately in residential.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's a big problem.
Well, really, the focus of our talk tonight is going to be the short-term vacation rental topic. But let's start off, Matt, with I watched the city council meeting this week, or was it last week?
It was last week, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. 45% of all the residential structures on the island are now short-term vacation rentals. Did I hear that right?
We're probably more at a density of 48. 48 and 36% households, and around 17, give or take a few, structures that aren't accounted for. Like, they could be legit second homes that don't get rented, or renegade STVRs, which I'm sure there's quite a few that aren't registered.
Right.
At one time, 2 years ago, there were like 200 that weren't actually registered.
Officially. Okay. Um, so our viewers understand the importance of you being our guest tonight is the current council, of which you hope to join after the November election, passed a 90-day moratorium on issuing any new short-term vacation rental permits. This was contentious and fraught with heated discussion. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of that meeting, since you've been out there, tell us how, over the last 5 or 10 years, how did this short-term vacation rental thing, in your view as an island native and resident, tell us how it's grown. When did you notice it was becoming a problem?
I can remember the day that I wondered why all these people were here. And we have an unofficial boat ramp called Alley 3, and if you're familiar with Tybee, you know where Alley 3 is. One day I was down there getting ready to put my jet board in, I think, to go for a ride, and I was like, where are all these people coming from? And with that being said, I started to notice more and more people everywhere. And basically, it was like, I needed to find out. I mean, we were being overrun 6 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
the residents couldn't use their own facilities, basically. Because it was so crowded.
Who were some of the first people to ring the bell or sound the alarm to say, hey, we're really getting a lot of these things, and some of it's good and some of it's not good? Were these early people that
Like the first people to ever start to
speak out about it?
advocate for regulation?
Yeah. Paul Wolf, I don't know. Jason Butelman, did he recognize the problem in his term as mayor? I mean, give us the down
No.
on on the locals, and when you guys all said, "Hey, man, this thing it could be a forest fire if we're not careful."
No, nobody said anything.
Wow. But you
Nobody
all knew it?
said
Couldn't you all see the density and the traffic and the volume of people increasing?
I could.
Okay.
You know, there was like a night with two mayors during the mayoral election. Walter Parker and Bilterman were there, and it was quite entertaining. It was at the Post Theater, and the last question that was asked both of those mayors was, what did they see would be the hardest problem to conquer on Tybee? They both
Okay.
agreed STVR. Now, I know Jason knew about STVR. I knew he knew about it a long time before I ever got involved. And I got involved during a very controversial meeting when he told me I should get involved. He probably wished that he never said that.
I don't know about that.
So anyway, that was a little over 2 years ago, and I was allowed through Jason because he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "What I want is I want you to allow me transparency to interview the department heads and try to figure out where the dysfunction is for STVR, and I'll try to like write the regulations for STVR." And that's what I did.
Well, okay, so how far along did the short-term vacation rental industry get before the city coughed up ordinances?
Well, there was a meeting, or this is kind of a difficult question because we've always our R1, R2, and RT ordinances that were written years ago should have protected us from the very beginning. Okay.
Okay.
That was kind of the key to everything, to read through those ordinances and go, hey, these were made to protect the residents. They were specifically designed for the quality of life and low density. They are exactly the opposite. They are high density areas, and the quality of life and family and everything that R1 represents is being stolen by STVR.
Right. I got that feeling very clearly in the council meeting last week from the testimony of many residents. And if I can, summarize from a distance, because I watched it online on the city's website. It strikes me as the island's in a struggle to save what little quality of life that the resident, the family, has enjoyed for a very long time. Is that a fair characterization of the problem?
I'm trying to be optimistic, and I know that a lot of people here, the residents here, they feel like they've been let down. They feel so discouraged that even to try to get the people that have been here a long time to rally with emails and support when I knew the moratorium was going to hit the agenda, I immediately started putting people on blast. Support the council, send your emails, do whatever. And there were some derogatory comments from people who had been here a long time that just said, it's over. We're done. And I just fail to accept that. I know we're close, but if the council will stay strong and they'll do what they're intending to do, we could turn it around, and it may not be long. I mean, there's other economic indicators that could affect STVR and some of these second homes that couldn't be afforded by these people. And so that could play a big part. And what my push is to get these regulations in place before that event comes, and in hopes to bring prices down, because I know several fine families, young families, that would love to move here, but they can't afford it. I mean, these people from out of state have driven the prices so high that the kind of community we want can't live here.
Right. Well,
so I think getting it regulated now will help increase our quality of life as to getting other people, permanent residents. It can even, let me tell you, it can even give us some long-term rental, because in that, there is no regulation, there is no Georgia regulation that prevents you from doing any kind of long-term rental under the Landlord-Tenant Act. It's about residency, whether it's rented or whether it's bought. So this could also help give us back our workforce, because they've been driven out by STVR.
Sure.
And those people want to convert and drive our people who can't afford to buy out because they don't have a place to rent.
Well, Mac, you mentioned like the work that's ahead is really hard, but just to get here was extremely hard as well. My personal theory is that the moratorium is in place so that it can be extended through the Georgia legislative session in the early part of next year, so that hopefully Jesse Petrie and them can give us some help at the state level. Is that part of it?
That would be a fair assessment.
Well, let's do this. I want to go through some of these clips. This meeting, again, guys, calling this episode A Tale of Two Councils. Last Thursday, a week ago, instead of having a show, John and I were simultaneously watching the Tybee meeting and the City of Savannah meeting.
That was interesting.
It was fascinating. It was a real who's who of opposition to STVR moratorium at the meeting there. And so I want to play these clips and have us talk about them because I think I want our viewers to understand the level of opposition. Those of you who watch the city council meetings of Savannah regularly and you see the lawyers and the lobbyists come in, this is a lot of what that is going to be like. So let's listen in. Go ahead, John.
Let me make one precursor comment before we run these clips for our viewers and Matt. The thing that struck me, the big takeaway for me, is not one of these hired guns or management guys or owners.
Interested parties is what I would call them. Interested parties, for
sure. One of the interested parties addressed the very issue, which is the degradation of the quality of life for residents.
No, it is totally gotten to the point where, okay, we're enriching the island. That's gone. We bought it so we could retire. That's kind of a wash, because your house will still be here when you get ready to retire. You don't have to rent it out. And then it came down to, we're going to lose an ass of money.
Yeah. Well, right. Let's listen in. These first couple of clips, these are just individual kind of real estate brokers. And I'm just going to mute everybody and play these couple back to back, and then we'll chat a bit. All right.
Hello, Mayor, Council. Matt Campbell, 602 Miller Avenue, and also am a consultant for the Georgia Association of Realtors. I come before you tonight also with concern about the proposed resolution moratorium on short-term rentals, in the process for which this is being handled. over the past month, I guess, or a few weeks since the last meeting, I've been preparing to discuss the parking fee and the tier structure, the parking plan and tier structure fee that we've, been in the works here for a little bit. And, just a few days ago, we get notice that there's a resolution to enact a moratorium on short-term rentals. I ask, as a homeowner on Tybee Island, that the council consider, making this a discussion only tonight, giving all vested parties, residents of Tybee, visitors of Tybee, realtors, and so on, the ability to really study this issue and consider how it's going to affect property owners, property sellers, and in the future down the line. Or if we're not just going to discuss it, possibly put this in the same ordinance format as the other STVR discussion items are. Put it in a study committee, put it as an ordinance where we get a first and second reading so that we can all get a fair shake to voice our opinions. This is a big issue. It affects a lot of people. And, that's what I have to say about that. I thank you for your time. I thank you for allowing me to speak. I thank you for allowing an open format where we can come before you and all you do for not only Tybee residents, but Tybee visitors who come here and like to spend money in the small businesses and dine at the restaurants. And a good portion of them stay at short-term rentals. So it's a huge issue for not only everyone involved and vacationers, but it's a huge issue for the economy of Tybee, Savannah, and coastal Georgia. Thank you for your time.
Broke their neck to get to where they were. Just like she's paying her rent, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the economy is going to tank if you do this. The reality is it's not. This is a property rights issue, and this is an issue with government overreaching its boundaries, trying to find a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. And I'm going to roughly take these numbers from Monty Park's post on Facebook, and let's back up to Memorial Day weekend of 2020. On his Facebook account, there was a 45,000 car count on this island, coming on and coming off. If there's 1,400 rentals, which there's no way that 100% of the ones permitted, and that's what y'all are saying you got permitted, have 4 cars at them. I know some are overcrowding and some are not, but there's no way that an average of 4 cars or more per rentals. That's roughly 6-ish, 7, 8% of the total traffic count coming onto this island that y'all are blaming, and the residents that make a lot of noise, and generally it's a bunch of huffing and puffing, are claiming that 5 to 8% of the people coming onto this island are causing 95% of the problems. The reality is y'all are pimping out this island for parking money. And that's the truth. I see the cops. I live on Butler Avenue, right at the corner at Anchor Park. I see the cops zooming up and down the streets. I see DUIs all night long, every 2 minutes. You did it again. You want to see my timer?
Excuse me, John. Is it 3 minutes?
No, it's not 3 minutes. Look at my timer.
Okay, thank you. Just a moment, please, sir. Okay, go ahead.
Chill out, Walt.
Well, y'all give 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes,
Okay,
not
you got
2.
it. You got it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So y'all are pimping out this island for parking money. That's your number one parking resource. And you've got all, I'm honestly sick of the zoo down here. It's not the vacation rentals. It's the amount of people coming on this island that y'all are shoving drinks down their throat. And as it was said tonight, it's $500,000. Your police department costs more than $2 million a year to run. And I'll guarantee you that the vacation rentals are taking less than 5% of that budget to handle. The other 95%, I don't know where it's coming from, but it sure ain't coming from vacation rentals. So before y'all start capping things and protecting people that are making up a bunch of crap, everybody deserves for y'all to do studies, to come up with some real reasons to do this. Right now, it's a bunch of huffing and puffing, and y'all are overreaching your boundaries, and I'm sick of it, and so are a bunch
Thank
of
you
other
so
people.
much, sir.
I'm sick of it. One more. I'm going to play one more opposition clip, Mac. I'm going to get to you in just a second. I want you to respond. But I just want to play one more of kind of these real estate industry people, and then let us respond.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, awesome. My name is Tricia Cook. I own 1504 Jones Avenue, and I'm opposed to the SDVR moratorium. I just invested a lot of my life savings on a home on Tybee last week This is my family's dream, and the only way we could afford a dream is to fund this as a small business owner with part-time SDVR options, and as I'm sure the same goes for many others. And if this passes, you'd be infringing on that dream and making that home unaffordable, and it will also single-handedly slash all Tybee property values by doing so. Full disclosure, I'm also a realtor. Regulating misuse of rentals, noise ordinances, and building and fire safety codes is understandable because we all deserve that quality of life, safety, and not to be disturbed, but a moratorium is an egregious overstepping of personal property rights, in my opinion, and I'd be scared of the backlash that would create for the city of Tybee. We can talk about grandfathering current SDVRs, but then you're bringing down the value of all the ones that don't have those SDVR certificates also. This would affect both full-time residents as well as part-time residents and investors by property values. And some prominent voices in this have argued that they don't care about property values and if they're affected because they plan on staying here for the rest of their life. But I truly believe that's just such a selfish, short-sighted view, as there's always life changes such as death, birth, marriage, divorce, job relocations, and health declines that require seniors to sell their homes to fund their assisted living. So if you're affecting property values, you're affecting all of their property values also. So I'd like you to please think about that whenever you think about doing this. And eliminating opportunities for law-abiding, rule-following homeowners could have a six-figure impact for the little guy. And that, to me, is an attack on the smallest business and an infringement of property rights. Real estate is the largest investment many people make in their lifetime. Any government interference that affects people's values after they have already made that investment is an issue, regardless.
There's a lot to unpack in those three videos. Mac, I want to just give you a chance to respond, okay?
There's not an argument that I haven't heard. The person that she was talking about was me about home values. And, I just gave you my thoughts on home values here. I don't particularly, and I've said this several times, I really don't want my equity of my personal home tied to the motel business. It's not.
Say that again. Say that again, please.
I said I don't want the equity of my home tied to a motel business. It's not apples to apples. I want my home to steady increase its equity year to year to year, not tied to a commodities market. It doesn't belong in our neighborhoods.
Yeah. At what cost? I mean,
at the cost of my life and everyone else. I mean, that's what it's costing. It's costing lives here.
Listen,
costing displacement of families here. That woman, she is, and Walt, the man prior to her, very rude, very rude. I mean, these people are trying to bully a council. And the fact that they would say, oh, you sprung this on us, like with no prior notice.
Yeah, it's interesting that the one common thing that all of them seems to want is to slow roll the process and create committees. And I'm not against a committee, but there's nothing wrong with having a moratorium for a reasonably short period of time, whether it's 90 days or 6 months, and go ahead and form your committees. But God help us if those people and like people who spoke don't come to that open-hearted with some appreciation for the loss of residential quality of life on the island.
I just want to reiterate, John, what Max said. If you want to own a hotel, download Robinhood and buy some Marriott stock. I mean, it's $135 a share, and that $135 a share is not hurting the rest of the residents on that island. Like, I mean, I was fascinated by STVRs when they first came about, and I thought, oh wow, this would be really cool because it'll challenge in the free market, it'll challenge hotels, John. And remember how we were in 2014 and 15 when there were 12 hotels permitted in Savannah in 2 years, and we were all up in arms. At the time, I thought, oh, well, this might help us out a little bit, and this might give us some parity. But no, now it's morphed into something even worse.
Let's put on the map here the fact that the proliferation of short-term vacation rentals in the downtown historic district has done nothing but drive up the cost of apartments in the middle of an affordable housing crisis.
And I know that this isn't a commentary on Adam Van Brimmer and Savannah Morning News today, but I'll just bring up the fact that he likes to mention when he first moved to Savannah, he could get a place downtown for $500 a month. Like, yeah, congratulations. It's not 1982 anymore. You know,
this is the fact that you guys are talking about the hotel industry downtown. You know, the past few years, riding through town to jump on 95 or 16 or whatever, you know, I noticed all these hotels going up, and I'm like, you know, it just really dawned on me the correlation between the hotel motel business and STVR. And even when you go into the Georgia code and you're like, you look at like codes for innkeepers and motels, hotels, and any structure that houses guests for one night or weekly stays, they have set their contracts up.
I think it's anything under 30 days, right, Mac?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have set their contracts up to be able to comply with these codes when it's clearly residential. Even to say that if you're in violation of any of the rules per their contract, they can evict you immediately. They use the word evict. Now, we all know you can't evict anybody immediately in a residential property without going through a dispossessory and a hearing in a court. I mean,
appeal period.
It's so hypocrisy. It's hypocritical the way they twist and turn everything to whatever they want it to be, you know. But the fact remains, they're operating many motels in our neighborhoods. And you guys got hotels that house thousands of people. It's like I don't know how you could even turn back the clock on that even a little bit.
You know what it is? You know what it is, Mac? Are you familiar with something called the tax allocation district or a business improvement district?
I'm not.
Let me explain to you. You probably have once I ring your bell. It's like let's say there's an undeveloped piece of property and the city or the county says, okay, guys, we're going to waive these taxes. All the taxes for 20 years are going to go back into the property, right? To get like they did this with the West Chatham Super Site 20 years ago, Savannah River Landing in downtown Savannah. This is a philosophy of what's called civic recapture, okay? And civic recapture is about private interests, corporate interests, retaking as much of the government resources they pay into back for themselves, right? So I think one of the big issues surrounding STVRs is the current status of the hotel motel tax as written by the Georgia the Georgia Assembly. As it's written, 75 cents of every dollar in taxes collected from hotel motel stays is required to be spent developing infrastructure for tourism product or directly marketing more tourists to this market. Mm-hmm. A big theory and juxtaposition of Better Savannah is to bring about the concept in economics to public government policy here is the concept of diminishing returns, the point of diminishing returns. So, you know, when STVRs first came on the market, 2005, 6, 7, 8, there was really no diminishing. We hadn't reached the diminishing returns yet, you know, but by 7 to 10 years ago, by 2013, 14, like you said earlier,
we were done.
It was a way past any more STVRs. They bring more problems than solutions that they can solve. And so I want to play one more opposition clip from one of these attorneys, and then I want to shift to the pro side
Okay.
Because again, this is the attorney for the realtors. Again, this is like the big guns coming out. And then I want to shift to what you represent, Mack, who's residents.
14 East State Street.
And if y'all would, if you feel like you need to take the mask off, I think we're having a hard time hearing you, or else adjust your mic a little bit.
I'm generally not bashful, so is that better?
That's better.
I can always adjust the volume.
That's great, thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor, council members. My name, as I said before, is Chris Lane. I'm an attorney with the law firm Weiner Sherhouse, and I represent the Savannah Area Realtors. Savannah Area Realtors is a trade association which represents more than 2,500 real estate licensees in the metropolitan Savannah area, including Chatham County, Bryan County, and Effingham. Savannah Area Realtors proudly supports property rights and the pursuit of the American dream of home ownership. The dream of home ownership in America, which is the envy of the world, includes property rights. These rights are enshrined in our United States Constitution, the Georgia Code, and at common law. You can think of these rights as a bundle of sticks. Imagine I'm holding them in my very hand. Each stick in this bundle represents an independent right. The right to use, the right to rent, the right to convey are but some of these rights that are included in this bundle, and which are conferred upon a person when they purchase real property. The proposed resolution in its current iteration, as recently revised earlier this afternoon, either intentionally or otherwise appears to interfere with and infringe upon this bundle of rights. While the proposed resolution references several studies, Savannah Area Realtors, my client, is unaware of any attempt to involve stakeholders, property owners, or others who may be affected by this resolution in the discussion, preparation, and implementation of the proposed moratorium. Furthermore, while the proposed resolution alludes to a potential emergency, there is no overt reference to any emergency necessitating the enactment of a moratorium without public input. While it is noted that this is a proposed resolution and not a proposed ordinance, and as such, not entitled to the normal hearing process, as noted by my previous speakers, Savannah Area Realtors humbly request that the city table this matter until such time as the public is afforded the opportunity to provide meaningful comment, and the city provided the opportunity to research this matter and its impact and consequences, legal and otherwise, of implementing any short-term vacation rental moratorium. Please do not act first and study later, only to later discover the harm caused by implementing such a resolution. This is an issue of significant importance, which deserves the proper attention of all affected. It is only prudent to take a reasonable amount of time to study and discuss a matter of such importance, especially one that affects so many. Finally, the ordinance as proposed appears to allow the council to indefinitely continue this moratorium. This is no doubt unintentional, but nevertheless an issue for the council to address and consider before any implementation.
All right, so that's Chris Lane. He's the lawyer for the Savannah Area Board of Real Estate Agents. Like I said, guys, all the big players, kind of came out to this meeting. I saw a lot of veiled threats there. Earlier at the realtors, the public backlash, that's a political threat, and the legal ramifications there, that's a legal threat. But I want to just address this issue of where someone else's property rights ends and my property rights and the ability to enjoy a community if I'm a resident of Tybee begin. And that's what I think's missing in the discussion from the opposition, right, Mack?
Yeah, that's a good question because I ask them that all the time. Mine shouldn't end where yours begin, basically. And these, anymore, STVR for the longest time was like the white elephant in the room, and every time I put something on the agenda, the place is packed with nothing but STVR, and I can remember the first meeting I went to, I felt like, man, this, I don't think I'm going to go anywhere with this, and it was a very real feeling like this is unsurmountable, and because I'm not an attorney and that's not my field, and tax law and operations for this and that. I run a construction business. I'm not like, I do know that we have rights. We have rights. I do know that. And everything that they say are threats. They're basically threats because they've not said anything that we don't have a right as a community to do. And that refers like to the home rule and what we can do with our ordinances. Nothing that is being done is in violation of any state code whatsoever. So everything, and to say that we never did anything, we never tried to form groups. Well, I don't know where they were because the Planning Commission, we have talked about it several times. Every time, like I said, that STVR was on the agenda, I put it on there. They were all there. They were all there to discuss their reasons for not regulating STVR. Last summer, there was a committee put together, and it involved mostly STVR property management companies, like the man you saw up there that was so rude to our mayor and council. It involved those. Nothing came out of them. Nothing. We got no relief from anything. So for them to say that, oh, all of a sudden the council is just being reactive that's not true. That's not true. They just did not want to.
They don't want to share. They don't want to conform. They don't want to be regulated. They just want maximum profits and as little harassment as possible.
Yeah, and that's not, let me tell you something. If they really had to live down here in chaos 24/7, maybe they would get a clue. But
well, John, I want to listen to some of these residents because with the part 2 that we're going to do on Savannah's council, I want people, because a lot of our followers follow us because we keep a close eye and as a watchdog on Savannah City Council politics and policy. I just want you to see these residents, and I just want people to think about how kind of different they feel like they're being treated than the residents who come in and oppose stuff at Savannah. So let's watch a couple of these residents, begging for relief from STVRs from City Council.
To ask you to pause on the STVRs. It has been a record-breaking year for them, and that's their own words. And the residents need a break. A break will allow you a chance to find ways to satisfy the renters and the residents. We have lost our neighborhoods. We, personally, are surrounded by STVRs. We have the barracks in our backyard. That is 7 two-bedroom short-term vacation rentals. The bakery across the street. Generally, there are 5 to 6 cars there. And an inn diagonally across the street. That's our immediate neighborhood. That's not even the entire street of Medon. Please stand up to this industry. They are threatening to endanger our way of life. If this continues, Tybee will simply be an island of vacationers who don't really care about our infrastructure until the toilets stop flushing. Thank you for standing up to the STVRs and taking a pause.
Council, thank you for the tough job that you do. My name is Dale Williams. I think I'm a rarity here tonight as a voting citizen, actually on Tybee. There have been a few others, but Just listening to Jenny, actually, it reminded me of a time on Tybee years ago. Jenny, I think you were fighting Finn Myrick at the time. He had a lawyer, you didn't. So it used to be on Tybee city council meetings that if you had to have a lawyer, you were on the wrong side of the issue. So I guess times...
Dale, will you state your address, please?
Hope times haven't changed.
Will you state your address for the record, please?
1101 2nd Avenue.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know if any of you have ever been to Juneau, Alaska, but if you spend a couple of days there, what you find out is that 9 out of 10 employees there are with the cruise industry. It's the cruise industry that are the members of the city council. The cruise industry runs the town. And so if you listen to the speakers so far tonight, if you tried to figure out what the representation on Tybee Island was, it would look to me like 8 out of 10 people here are involved in real estate, property management, or STVR ownership. The irony is that I am a businessman. I support local business and I support local business people. But I am highly offended when corporate interests from outside Tybee come and try and tell us how to run our island. And I'm really disappointed that we have a system that allows vested business owners with a conflict of interest to dominate the conversation. I highly support this moratorium.
Debbie Kearney, I live at 1101 2nd Avenue. With him. I guess I support the moratorium. I think that's really the main point. I think I wrote each of you. I don't think this issue is all or nothing like people presented. I think that we need to find middle ground that works for everybody, and that's what this asks for, is a pause of 90 days, which is the blink of an eye, to think about this a little bit more and to talk about it. And one of the things that I think about is in all political causes and fights, often there's this thing about, well, okay, wait, don't disrupt something, don't cause a problem, let's figure it out without anybody having to give up anything. And I think that we really need the 90 days to show that we're serious about this. The residents of Tybee, I think, deserve this. I think we need this as a quality of life check. So please do support the moratorium. Thank you.
Just, very heartfelt expressions of again, begging for relief from the quality of life intrusion that, again, guys, a point of diminishing returns passed a while ago. Everything that's going on is detrimental just about the residents out there from this industry. I'm sure a lot of these neighbors, Mac. Tell us in your own words how big of an issue this is for the island's 3,400, 3,500 residents.
The people that spoke, I kind of know them. The lady that spoke first, I've never even seen what I said. I don't even remember what I said. But I left and came home and watched it. And then when they got to the vote, I jumped back on my bicycle and ran back down there. And, the STVR they were all standing outside because I tried to get as many people to get there early and take all the seats because of COVID. So most of them would have to sit outside. And so the council could look at more residents and have to face what they dealt with. But the first lady that spoke, I walked in and I sat down to her before they voted, and they were discussing, and they voted, and she would turn to me and she was like, "Thank you." And I was like, "Thank you." Because I've been trying to get people to stand, and this is the thing. A lot of times, unless it touches you, you don't take that stance. And I think that's how far we've come with this now.
Well, I just think it's patently obvious you got 47 or 48% of your residential inventory on the island converted over to short-term vacation rental. I mean, where does it say that
But
they get?
that's not even the bigger picture. The bigger picture is STVR houses 3,759 rooms. So if you conservatively put 2 people in those rooms, just in the residential areas, you've already almost
tripled the population.
Exactly.
Okay.
So then you go a step further, John. Wait a minute.
Okay.
So then you got the legality or the legal, like Beachside Colony. You got 400 motel rooms. Okay. That's another 800 people.
All right.
Then you got 150 campsites, and then 60 B&B rooms, legit B&B. So, I mean, it's like, and then you got the day trippers on top of that too. It's like, we're dying here.
You're suffocating all for the profits of this industry.
Yeah, they should be paying our bills. They should be paying my taxes. They should be paying my electric. They should be paying my garbage pickup, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, they're having a much larger impact on your infrastructure, whether it's water, sewer, streets, service calls. It's totally
the island
wrong-headed.
People don't get it. They don't get it. We're like 3 miles barely long and a mile wide. The island, when it was zoned for the capacity study, for the carrying capacity of our DP Department of Public Works and Water and Sewer, and we're already past our draw rates now from the aquifer we're drawing from. At some point, it's got to stop. I mean, it's just got to stop. You know what? This is the thing. Even if STVR took over the whole island, the island can't facilitate it now.
Right.
We've got an infestation of rats now because of the garbage.
Chuck, do you have the slides handy? Can you put up slide 1? I just want to make a point to our viewers.
This one right here?
Yeah. Okay. This is taken straight away from the current city charter for the city of Tybee. And section 1.13, powers. The city is authorized, this is paragraph 11, to be responsible for the general health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, to define, regulate, and prohibit any act, practice, conduct, or use of property which is determined, which is detrimental, to health, sanitation, cleanliness, welfare, and the safety of the inhabitants of the city, and to provide for the enforcement of such standards. Furthermore, in section 1.13, number 21, nuisance, a direct responsibility of the city government, is to define a nuisance and provide for its abatement, whether on public or private property. I mean, this is at the very top end of the responsibilities of local government, the Tybee City Council, and quite frankly, as Shirley Sessions, the mayor, pointed out, they've kicked the can down the road for so long. It's going to be very difficult to restore some sense of balance, but at least the tipping point has come, a moratorium for everybody to take a deep breath and figure out how to manage these competing interests is upon us. And I give Mack a lot of credit for it, because he was one of the early clarion calls for government involvement and regulation. And here we just watched a litany of people say, but don't touch my wallet. Don't touch my investment. I'm sorry. The city has responsibilities in its charter, and only now it seems like they're willing to do the hard work.
It's sad. It's it's a sad reality of where we are, and and this is the thing. I can't look at that. I can't look at that now because this is monumental. This is almost like history in the making for us. And for me, it's like a breath of fresh air. I mean, I fell on my knees when they finally passed it.
Well, that's what I want to go through. I want to go through these clips of the council actually acting because, I think the vote was 4-2 with one abstention.
3-2.
It was 3-2 actually, and Jay Burke recused himself.
Oh, that's what it was, 3-2. So,
Yeah. It was strategically done, that's for sure.
Sure. I always remember when I, think about Congressman John Barrow, he'd always choose the votes he could say no and which ones he had to say yes. So let's go through a couple of these. We're going to do two real quick, and then we've got some longer ones.
Permits may be issued for any location that had been previously identified that was transferred by a bona fide sale. So it seems like we have these two exceptions that cover about everything. My question is, both of them say new permits may be issued. So who is the approval authority? And is there an approval process? Does each one of those have to be approved by George or Sean? Or does each one of them come to the city council? I think people are going to read this and assume will, but the language says may.
Well, it is intended to be the same standard and application qualifications that are presently in place for anybody who wants to apply for an STVR. Is what
right.
My understanding of the intention by the presenter of this exemption.
Okay, so with those exceptions, again.
So we got one guy there on council who's kind of the most outspoken, trying to pick apart the exemptions, the language, but the rest of these comments really are kind of straightforward.
Because I agree, it only seems to limit the residents, and it doesn't address the issue that we have. I mean, I do think a moratorium is necessary. I think this is an emergency for our city. We've been talking about this for years. This is the number one issue that residents have brought up to me that they want us to work on. We heard from, 245 letters, emails we got. 109 of those were from residents, and 92 of those were in favor of this moratorium. I mean, this is what residents want us to do. I think residents want their neighborhoods back. They want a community. They want employee housing. They want long-term rentals. They want reduction in noise and parking. They want families, not investors. This is a quality of life issue for so many of our residents. I do think that a moratorium is necessary and appropriate, but I think that this section just allows too many people to get back in. Yeah, I want to thank some of the people that spoke tonight because they addressed one of the biggest issues in our previous failure to address the proliferation of STVRs, and that they identified those investment properties as small businesses. Well, we do not allow businesses in our residential districts because of the impact on our residents and their neighbors. So when we have investment properties who have new residents and noise and parking every weekend, this is a serious quality of life issue that affects our residents. And to the 17 residents that reached out to me, who most of whom had a financial interest in this, versus the 92 residents that I heard of saying that they are desperate for us to do something about this. I mean, when I canvassed, I went to some parts on Miller where a gentleman told me that he was the last resident on that block. Every single other house was an STVR. He had no neighbors. He had, his no neighborhood. He didn't have anyone in his, he didn't have anyone to hang out with. His friends were gone. And that's not the community that most people on Tybee want to live in. And that's not the kind of Tybee community that we used to have. I mean, the proliferation of Airbnb and that new technology is the reason we haven't addressed this so far, because Airbnb was originally designed for owner-occupied properties to rent a home out in their room. And as we go forward, I think this moratorium is only a first step. If you want to rent out a room in your home, I don't think we should touch your property rights there. I agree that it is your right to rent out a room in your home and not have us bother you, but you need to be there. That's the entire purpose of what Airbnb was developed to do. These companies that are coming in and buying STVRs, LLCs in our neighborhoods, these are admittedly businesses and investments, and that's not what our neighborhoods are there to support. And for those of you that are talking about, the money and the price, I think it's severely short-sighted and harmful to your neighbors to put your financial interests over the quality of life of the people that live next to you. We talk about STVRs being good neighbors. Well, be good neighbors. And I don't think, property rights are not absolute. I'm an attorney. I know that everyone knows that we already have limits in our residential areas about what you can and can't do. You can't have a business that bothers other people. You can't use it. You can't build a condo. You can't have a hotel. And guess what? You can long-term rent. So everyone that's saying we're taking away your opportunity to rent, why don't you rent it out long-term? There's plenty of employees on this island that would love to do that. The people that are saying that this is not fair, look around the country and the world. These are laws that are going into place everywhere because the impact is exactly the same all over Georgia, all over this country. So if anyone is surprised that we're finally doing something about it, I guess I don't blame you. We should have done something about this 10 or 20 years ago when it first started, before we lost our sense of community in our neighborhoods. I think now, since finally we can have this moratorium and start making positive steps to address this issue, this is the number one thing that residents talk to me about. This is one of the number one things that residents have emailed about. This is what residents want. And for those of you that aren't residents here, I'm sorry, you are not my constituents. And I am trying to operate and represent the residents of this island. And to me, this moratorium is only a first step in finally addressing what is a long overdue and huge problem. Thank you.
Some great comments there from Nancy DeVetter, Councilwoman DeVetter, is a local attorney out there. I really liked how she was both able to pick apart some of the language in the bill. I think that's good for process, but also express the broader point. You guys aren't our constituents. You're not residents. You're just business owners.
She was very. This is something that I told them. There's a lot of research that has been done in the residents' behalf. A lot of it through myself and another friend of mine who was on council. And I won't name her name because she doesn't want to take credit for something she might get in trouble for. So, but during the week of them trying to keep their wits about them, because they were being blasted by email and calls, and my friend and I were just trying to give them the strength and the ability to feel the confidence that they needed to make this happen. And I don't say that because they're weak. I say it because I know what it's like to stand up in front of a whole gallery full of those people. And so it's kind of like for them staring down the barrel of a gun, So, we called every day. We support them and tell them, we were trying to get the residents involved and, rally for them and support them. And, And by God, they did what they said they were going to do. And that was just like, yippee-yay.
Hey, it's a pivotal first. Everyone seems to comment that it's long overdue, but it's here now. Mac, if you're elected, and we certainly hope you get elected, how are you going to keep the unity of this movement going forward?
Well, that's a good question. You know, it's been hard to like foresee the future because I've been in the fight, like directly engaged for so long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But on council, my purpose would be to strengthen the ability of what is already there to enforce what we have.
Good point.
To try to get our community back together again.
Yeah, you got a long term. I think that there's a long term, a middle term, and a short term component to that answer. And I'm going to jump out here and say, after reading through your charter, you guys already have plenty of strength of ordinance to start compelling this industry to behave, whether it's occupancy overruns, excessive automobile parking, or noise ordinances. That's a function of the city marshal. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the city marshal reports to the city manager?
That's correct.
Okay. Has this council, to your knowledge, had a sit down with this city manager to say the wind direction has shifted and you need to get your marshal to start doing his job?
You know, I'm sure there's some things that happen in executive session that I don't know about.
Well,
I would say
get on council, would you not step up the inspection and enforcement of your ordinances to protect the quality of life for residents?
Well, I mean that's kind of I've kind of made that statement already. I mean, 2 years ago, I advocated for the enforcement. I advocated, and even in this document right here that I wrote 2 years ago, it talks about the implementation of the software. It talks about the enforcement with a 24/7 hotline that people can call and get immediate assistance, because we've got so many people down here, John, that our police force, they can't deal with STVR. They're busy with, things that are, yeah. So I actually put a budget together to try to form a department for code enforcement, STVR in particular, and they're rolling on the beach and calling down people on trash and dogs at large. And so the reports, the police reports, they never reflect a report that comes for a noise violation or any such thing from STVR. If they don't take a report, then it doesn't make it on the daily reports or the weekend reports that are given to the council members. But here's the thing. Council members will get calls from residents that say they're tired of STVRs because they are complaining to council members, and council members are going, well, I don't see anything on this report.
Yeah, well, the council member in no way, shape, or form, Mac, can say, I don't have the ordinance backing me up to remove the 2 extra cars, to close down the place unless they send 4 of their 12 people outside
Right.
on us. Okay, you guys clearly, unequivocally, have ample ordinance authority. So what you're telling me is you got an enforcement problem, pal.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I see it.
Yeah. But not with everything.
Yeah. To your
This is
knowledge,
what they call it. There's a name for that.
can you
It's
say
called
it?
select. Yeah,
Okay,
it's called
selective.
selective code enforcement.
To your knowledge, Mac, limited as it may be, as one person living on the island forever and ever, amen. Since these ordinances have been on the books for years, are you aware of any single short-term vacation rental owner or management company being fined?
Never. Not one time.
Wow.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Never.
And there's
Never, ever.
there's 7,000 of their customers out on the island.
I know, that's kind of hard to believe.
It's like science fiction, man. You can't make this stuff up.
I know. And everybody's walking around like zombies going, what?
Well,
that was even shocking to Chuck. He came back on the air.
Yeah, I'm almost 100% certain that you have an enforcement problem, and since the enforcement element reports to your city manager, I think you got a problem with your city manager.
That would be a big question mark.
That's a great place to leave that cliffhanger. I think I want to end our kind of discussion on the political reality. You know, the political realities. You've got an election in 90 days. You know, there are 3 seats up, and I want to watch this long speech from Councilman Money, because I spoke with a lot of people this past week for this show out there, and this guy seems like a guy who's longtime Tybee. Yeah, I think you've known him a long time, and he's like come around over the years on this issue, from what I understand. He used to kind of not want to touch it, and then he did. So
Chuck.
Let's watch this and let you respond on the other side.
Okay, sure.
No worries.
I have had the pleasure of speaking with many of the people in the audience tonight. They have been very patient with me. They've been very thorough in explaining to me 1031 tax transactions, cash flow expectations on closing, and many of the aspects of the financial side and the criticality of the nature of these real estate transactions. And I think I've gotten a good understanding. They have asked me to address a couple of key questions. One is just who do I think I'm representing? That seems to be one of the key factors. Am I representing 10 or 15 people who are repeatedly noisy? In my concept of a rental visitor, God bless them, and we love them. They are concerned with the house they're in and the stay of the vacation they're on. And they shouldn't have to worry about anything beyond that. They're here to vacation, they're to be in a nice place in a safe neighborhood. And that's wonderful. But these visitors, by their fundamental nature, they don't march in parades, they don't build the floats, they don't organize the parade order, they don't cook or serve meals at the Legion, they don't volunteer at the lighthouse or on beach cleanups. If the trash doesn't get picked up on that street, they're not obligated to call. And I don't blame them. They got problems at home. If you fall in your backyard, they're not watching out for you to call. If there's a fundraiser for a stricken member of our community, and we have those regularly, as individuals, and I'm not saying as corporates, as individuals, these vacationers, they're not involved. These rental people, they don't drive you to the service station if your car's on the fritz. They won't bring you something back from off island if you need it. If my pet goes missing, they won't help me look for it. They don't hold office on council. They don't vote. They don't serve on Planning Commission, Beach Task Force, or any other volunteer committee on this island. Their children don't attend the school. They don't play at the YMCA. They don't join the reading groups at the library. They don't sing at the choir at church. They don't help with the potluck suppers. They certainly don't support local bars and restaurants during the off-season. So who am I standing up for? What purpose do I have in supporting this? I'm standing up for the people who organize and walk in parades, which are a key feature of Tybee when we get back to doing that. I'm standing up for the people who cook and work at the Legion, which is another thing for veterans that visit. I'm standing up for people who man the lighthouse, which we all count on to entertain our tourist visitors. I'm standing up for the people who are volunteer members of the Planning Commission, the volunteers at the Post Theater, the Beach Task Force, the Main Street Program, the people who show up for charity potlucks for people on this island who need recently an organ transplant, who perform in costumes at Tybee Idol and at the community theater plays, and I'm standing up for the people that serve in church choirs. I say God bless these folks, and I'm doing my best to be their voice. They're not just half a dozen squeaky wheels around the neighbors. They actually support the activities that support the tourism industry on this island. Because these volunteers, their children, the working families, they need a voice around here. And that's who I'm speaking for. You ask about, what's the urgency? What's the urgency to this? What's the crisis? And I understand what a financial crisis is from your point of view. The falling price of speculative property purchases. I understand the impact this could have. The resolution as it's written for a 90-day period allows for the transferability. If you sell your rental with an established permit, the new buyer can get that. But at this point, we've reached almost 45% of the housing stock on this island is in rental property. So I have a choice, and I've asked several members, several people from the real estate community, help me with this choice. At what point is it enough? Now, during the 90 days, we might determine that 45% is not enough to support all these and we need to go higher. We might determine that we need other study groups. We might determine that we need, for 90 days, we need to study what goes on here, and we need to keep the current level as it is.
So, Mac, that's a long-time Tybee Council member. I think he's in his third term. Eloquently breaking down who he represents. You'll, of course, be voting for yourself, we assume, on the ballot on Election Day. Are you also going to be casting a ballot for this guy? Who are the other candidates that would represent like an all-star team for those 3 seats, for the other 2 besides yourself?
He would. He would, and myself. And the reason I say that is because you're right. You're right on all counts. But money is key here. I'm kind of the backup plan, okay? He put it on the resolution. He stood up He did a great thing for the community, and he needs to be there probably, if nothing else, to carry this right on through to the next 4 years. Monty was one that I think the numbers finally shocked Monty. And, the fact that he talks about community and the loss of it is a very good point. And, the whole time my friend and I are like telling him, look, and Nancy, and Barry that voted for it, these aren't your constituents. These aren't the people that live here. And, you can look at them as empty faces or whatever, but these aren't the people that you are trying to protect. So I think a lot of that came out. Yeah, he's pretty, he goes into a lot of detail, and that's just Monty. That's how he is. But
he's very level-headed.
Yeah.
Let me ask you another question. I want to throw another question out at you because it's striking to me. Jason Buelterman is a friend of this show, friend of the committee. We endorsed him for county commission chairman last year in the general election. That was not a popular decision at the time. It increasingly looks, in hindsight, like a better decision more and more. But that's another show, John.
Yep.
I want to point out that you guys had a seemingly effective mayor in Jason Buelterman, with a reputation for effectiveness. And he did not get this done. And now you got Mayor Shirley Sessions, who is herself a real estate broker. I find this fascinating that a member of that own community is the mayor who is the one presiding over this progress. Do you have any thoughts on that, Mac?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it a few times, and it's more like it's hard to rationalize the fact that Jason knew about this for so long, but Shirley did as well because she was an incumbent for
she was on council like 18 years ago for 2 terms and then stepped away and came back. So
and
she admitted that.
Yes.
In speech.
We're going to listen to her speech in just a minute, John.
And I know for a fact that she knew about this. Shirley has kind of helped me along the way. You know what I'm saying? And pointing out some key things that I really needed to know about even to know where to begin to start to look into STVR and the legality of it. And it's just the only thing I can say is that, it's God's timing. I mean, yeah, the roles are totally reversed in that she is a realtor. Jason is not. She's trying to get something done, and Jason hid it. He did nothing. So I don't know. Go figure, man.
We are where we are, and it's a good position to be in because you guys have finally rung the bell, recognized the deterioration of quality of life, and council is going to do something. Now, whether they're successful remains to be seen, but at least it's on the table. It's being addressed. It's no longer being shoved to the corners or ignored. So I got to see that's progress.
I have to say that the ordinance that's written, even the regulations I wrote here, it's gotta be one in a whole. You can't pick it apart. You can't take pieces out of it. They're gonna have to like put the whole document in place. And it might not be this one specifically, but it will be engineered, written, and guaranteeing the same things that this does, because without particular line item, it's not going to execute well. It needs everything that's in there to make it work, and what it does is it throws the ball in STVR's court. If you can't behave yourself, if you can't limit the capacity, if you have parties and you can't limit the noise, the parking, you're going to do yourself in. You're going to ruin yourself. And where the island is right now, STVR is doing that without any regulatory status whatsoever, because the same things that we are talking about are the same things that I hear people say, I'm not going to Tybee anymore because of, and then you got a list of everything. So if the industry went unchecked, there's probably a good probability that STVR would ruin itself. But I don't want to wait till that long. And I don't want the people that are left here to have to wait that long either. I want something done now.
Chuck, can you indulge me and put up slide 2? I just want to make a quick point. See if Mack has some comments on this.
Ooh, that's tiny.
Okay. Do you have a cursor?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's the third paragraph down. That's section 34-260.
Give me a second.
I can just read it.
Yeah, read it out loud for us.
Okay. All right. This is City of Tybee Charter, section 34-260. Purpose and intent. Paragraph D. Short-term vacation rental agent is a local contact person designated by the owner who shall be available at all times to respond to complaints regarding the condition, operation, or conduct of occupants of the short-term vacation rental. Such person is customarily present at the location within the city for purposes of transacting business and is responsible for taking remedial action to resolve issues within 1 hour. Mack, why do you guys have the problems that you have if these are the laws of the island of Tybee, the city of Tybee?
Well, it's nothing new, and I saw it in our last city manager as well. My first the encounter I had at the boat ramp with STVR was followed up by a house that was right next door to me that had a swimming pool right on the property line. And I went to the city to try to get help from the city, and I couldn't get help from the city. I begged for help. I begged, I pleaded. I couldn't get any help. I went to the city manager, couldn't get any help. I called the police. I saw child abuse. I saw domestic violence. I saw cruelty to animals. To the point where I would be threatening in nature if it didn't stop. I called police, and you never could get a report. And so what I'm telling you is this behavior has carried from a city manager to a city manager to a city manager. And how that works, I'm not really sure, but it's a fact.
Listen, your city manager, I promise you, I guarantee you 100% is hired by a majority of council's votes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if
true.
If the guy is non-responsive, AWOL, unwilling, enforcement is the term I think you preferred, whatever you want to call it, this guy's not doing his job.
Yeah, well, I get it.
Council has to deal with that. And
well,
hopefully, if you're elected, there'll be enough reasonable people on council to say, you either do this as instructed by your boss, this council of 7 members, or you find someplace else to work.
Yeah, no, I mean, we pointed this out on other issues, John, and I think that this mayor's the right mayor. I think she needs a couple more votes on council.
Agreed.
And you know, my hope, Mac, and I just want to use this as an introduction to this clip, these clips of her speaking before we finish out for the night, is that what you guys did this past week is a shot across the bow, a line in the sand, drawn against overall the tourism industry, because STVR is like a symptom of the tourism. It's a symptom of the problem. The problem is we over invest into tourism. We don't invest into our residents. So I just want to play, you know, again, this is our last long clip for the show tonight. I just want to play this because I wrote a post afterwards and I said, you know, is Mayor Shirley Sessions the most progressive mayor in Chatham County? Is that really true?
This is I think it's a good clip, actually.
It's a great clip. All right, from what you remember seeing it live, absolutely. Let's watch it and come back on the other side to finish out.
I would like to pipe in and say, over the years, it's been my observation, having served on the Planning Commission in 1999 and then subsequently on council for 8 years, and currently and now in this position, I have seen the city, and I think we have to take full responsibility for what has happened, what is happening, by not enforcing our zoning. We haven't done it. When you look at our zoning districts, R1, R2, R1B, they're clearly state what is a right, a use of right, and they're all single-family homes or duplexes, some multiple families. The only tourism short-term issue that's addressed currently in our zoning, and this has been the way I've only seen the land use code since 1998. I don't know if it goes back further than that. I'm sure it does, but it clearly states C1 is the only district that allows commercial short-term vacation rentals. We didn't enforce it. I brought this up when I was on council the first time in 2004. I asked my fellow council members, do you think maybe we need to look at this? I was not opposed to at all, and nor am I opposed to short-term vacation rentals throughout the community, but let's decide how we want to do it. And didn't get the backing, brought it up again in 2007. They were, we were seeing more and more. And again, read the district uses to the council. One council member was willing to take a stand, but we didn't have enough to do anything. Brought it up again in 2018. And literally had to bring out the land use code and read it. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm just making a point. We're not enforcing our code. And I don't know if the residents are at some point going to really get so frustrated with us. Let's either kick this to the curb and start all over and incorporate the areas or the entire island. Again, I have to blame it on the city. It is not the short-term rental people. It's our fault for not taking a stand and not being better controlled. I remember just recently talking to somebody who was so concerned about all of there's 4, I think at this particular location there were 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and there were 15 to 20 people at any given time in that short-term vacation rental. Now, to say that I'm not even thinking about noise or trash, because I think you can have that many people who are not noisy, who will be respectful, but I was concerned about the infrastructure. we already have a very sensitive infrastructure, our water, our sewer, we all know that. I think in 2024, EPD is going to come after us and tell us, hey, you know what, you've already used your water, sorry, you got to do something else. So we have serious issues with water and sewer. And I think I've always said, can we just talk about limiting occupancy, like Chatham County just recently did, 2 people per bedroom plus 2. And, you know, that to me is my greatest concern. I will say that I feel like that there are people who visit Tybee, who do stay at short-term vacation rentals, who are good neighbors, who do participate in Tybee activities, and who do move here. But I think that right now where we are not upholding what the city's master plan says to begin with, which is making sure that our residents enjoy a quality, quiet, peaceful, just like property rights. I'm a big believer in them, obviously, but where my property rights end, yours begin. So I think that whole idea of property rights, you have to remember, with rights come responsibilities. And I feel like this council is just trying to, and maybe.
What she says there is that at the end is maybe we did this wrong, but I'm willing to risk that, you know. And you know, again, I want all of our viewers to come back. We're going to do another show, part 2 of this Tale of Two Councils, and I just want people to compare that language, that kind of soft skills leadership of breaking it down as a member of the real estate community. I just thought was really strong. And if that's how she could do this on STVRs, that's how she's going to lead there, then maybe the whole crap of Visit Tybee, Visit Savannah, funded by the hotel motel tax, maybe that could be on the line next. Maybe reform there is possible.
You know, she's very soft-spoken, but she's very smart. And with that speech, she was willing to like say, hey, you know, government has failed us. It's been dysfunctional.
Yep.
And we need to get it back in check, and willing to take the blame for it. I mean, you heard her. She was on council for 8 years. She's also a real estate broker. So yeah, I mean, it kind of reverts back to the question you asked me before, Chuck, is like how the roles are so reversed from Bilterman to Sessions, and everything. Her business doesn't even align with how she's going to rule. You know what I mean? So, am I trusting of her? Yes, because of that one fact. It's like I rent a single room here. You know, B&B, it's legit, it's licensed. I run it through B&B because I can screen people and I know what kind of people are coming to stay in my house, you know?
Yeah, but you're there.
Yeah, and I'm here. That's the whole thing.
Exactly.
But, you know, and everybody wants to come at me and bash me for what I'm doing, and that's okay. But it's not apples to apples. And this is the part that's like, this is like, it's how twisted it is to compare me with an STVR unit that's overwhelmingly capacitated over the capacity of what it can actually take. You know, I'm just like, I do it. I don't do it really for the money. My room is very affordable for the younger people that would stay in a hosted B&B like they would stay at a hostel. Like I would stay at a hostel out of country. That doesn't bother me. It's the prices are usually good and it's clean, and it kind of caters to that younger crowd of people. And everybody that has been through here, they're younger people. They're very respectful, very gracious, and I've enjoyed having them. You know, I don't like people 24/7, and so I block out days. But it's a kind of a cool gig, but it's not all about the money,
Well, again, I'll say this the same to you. I think, it's a powerful statement for Mayor Sessions, somebody from that community, to kind of step out and vote her conscience. And it just, if you win this election, it's one of the most age-old quotes of all time, with great power.
This guy, Flash Thompson, he probably deserved what happened. But just because you can beat him up doesn't give you the right to. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
A little Uncle Ben for you. Uncle Ben wisdom from Spider-Man. Great power comes great responsibility. So we're really wishing you the best of luck. I know there's a couple other candidates out there. I think we'd be willing to sit down with a few others, as well between now and Election Day. But Mack, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers, how can they find out more about you or your campaign? How can they support you between now and Election Day?
They can always message me on Facebook. I'm actually still using my Just Mayor Mack account Facebook page, but cool. I'm trying to figure out how to change the name. I finally changed the picture. Okay. But I'm working on the name. But yeah, my page is public. And you may see anything from kite surfing to, STVR misbehaving, or you know what I'm saying. So, but they can message me or hit me up on Facebook. There's a lot of information on the Mayoral Mack page, Just Mayor Mack, and I try to post. I try to post things that are going on with STVR. A lot of the stuff is STVR and environment, and there's a lot of things that we didn't talk about tonight that are effects of STVR too.
It's a deep subject, Matt. It really is. And we'll have you back. We've got a lot of time. We'll try to get some other key candidates to come on, and we'll have even more synergy to talk about the future of the island. I can't thank you enough for being available and staying up late and, sharing your thoughts with us.
I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys asking me on, and for what it's worth, the municipalities that are suffering the same effects from an amenity that they may have, whether it's a lake or a beach or whatever, I would just, I would hope that the more people that stand against it, the more people will stand against it, so more people that see your broadcast, hopefully will help other people.
Absolutely. Everybody, the easiest, cheapest, freest thing you can do is always share, right. Subscribe, like, make sure other people, you can actually copy the link to this broadcast and just send it to people in your text messages too. It's a great way to send this information out. Mack Kitchens, I want to, on behalf of Better Savannah, just thank you for stopping by. I'm gonna let you out of the broadcast studio here, and then John and I are gonna chat for a couple more minutes to finish out our show. Okay.
All right, man.
Peace. Thanks so much. Love that, Surfer. All right, John. That was a great interview. He's a fascinating guy. Election is November 2nd, I think, or 4th, one of the first Tuesday. Let's see here what the calendar says. Yeah, November 2nd is the election, I believe. So he's a candidate. There are
on Tybee.
There are what now?
2 polling spots on Tybee.
Yeah, just 2 precincts. There are 3 seats. My dog wants to vote for Mack as well. If you know somebody on Tybee, make sure that they get out there and vote. So John, that's going to be part 1 of this Tale of Two Councils. We're going to have to do another episode this weekend here to talk about what happened at Savannah City Council, because there's just so much content to look through. Such a great interview with Mack here. But what else is on your mind lately now that you're back in town? I know you wanted to chat for a couple minutes before we ended the show.
Well, I wanted to do just a couple of housekeeping things. One, obviously, I want to shout out to the train wrecks for their
Jason Bible, what's up?
Yeah, man, they're Stu and the crew. I mean, they're just great people that have helped us and let us use Song for Sally.
Song for Sally.
Yeah, we love you guys, and everybody should go see this train wrecks. Bottom line. Also want to mention our friends at ATR, who join us in the struggle for better public policy, and that takes many shapes and forms. Specifically, as in tonight, overloaded tourism, which really we put so much money and energy into tourism, and our communities and our neighborhoods are suffering. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, John, I'll just stop you here real quick. There are two big city council municipal races this year, Tybee Island and Port Wentworth. And, we're following closely what's going on with founder of ATR, Julius Halls, being challenged. It seems different than Tony Riley, though. Tony Riley lied on his affidavit and never sought the restoration of rights being restored. We may have him back on and talk more about that soon. I want to give it some time to, just like Max said, we're not lawyers. We just play lawyers on Facebook from time to time. And, I want to let that legal process work its way out. It would appear, in my opinion, he's met the reinstatement process to be able to run for office again. But whether that jives with the Georgia Constitution, that's a question for somebody who makes a lot more money than I do.
Right. Lastly, Chuck, I want to mention Jim Marikis and the Savannah and Races and the great work that they're doing, and how lucky we are to have the implosion of Connect and then the Phoenix rising of the Savannah. And there's just so few places currently where you can get straight on,
Yes, and it's streamlined. It's $5 a month.
More you'll ever spend.
Yeah, and I think we'll record part 2 of this episode this weekend and release it to our members and supporters first. But I just think that we've got such a monumental amount of content from these 2 meetings to go through. I'm gonna put together, whenever I get the chance here in a couple days, maybe this weekend, I want to put together kind of a little montage of the first 50 episodes, just to kind of celebrate. We hit the first 50, and what I really need to do is we need like a monthly, like best of for the month of, so that way people can kind of pick and choose which episodes. This has been a lot of fun. It's a challenge, guys. We're trying to simultaneously advocate for things we want to see change, but also create and put out a good product so that you guys will keep coming back and listen, whether that's live tonight. We had a large YouTube audience earlier, a lot of people on Facebook, or if you're going to listen to that from one of the podcast apps later tonight, Spotify, Apple Music, be sure to subscribe, share that feed to others that you'd like to listen to things in podcast form. But we got so much more to talk about and do, but gosh, 2 hours is quite a lot. What do you say, John?
Well, Chuck, I thought it was the dog days of summer and things were going to be kind of, languid and slow. And
I can't believe I thought we'd do both sides of this 2-part series in one show. I can't believe I thought that legitimately.
Well, you're ambitious. You want to do 20 mortgages a month, right?
I hear you, man. It's always 20 more, but again, it is what it is. I appreciate you guys coming and sitting down to view this live discussion. We had a great turnout. Share, like, subscribe. I finally figured out how to do this banner. So,
awesome.
We're gonna release this next episode first on Patreon. and in our private Facebook members group for those of us to support us. Patreon's a super recognized app. Very simple. Log on there, create an account. $7 a month. There's even a $5 cheapo option on there. $5 a month will get you extra content from us and will help us do more to push making this a better Savannah. So again, we appreciate you guys coming on to watch us tonight, and we'll see you guys soon.
Peace.
Don't you think it's time for the city of Savannah to have an honest tourism management plan? Let SCAB start paying its fair share? And the hospitality industry needs to increase its wages? The impacts of new growth should not cost residents. All local elected officials on council and commission should have term limits. We're working hard to accomplish these policies. We need your help. Please contribute whatever you can, $5, $10, or $20, by going to bettersavannah.org. Donate. Thank you.
This is the Council of Change, and we are bringing that.
Today is delivery day. We're out here delivering the pilot to-go cups. So I'll see you all out there. I'm going to go rock this delivery. Come out and enjoy the aluminum to-go cups, and we'll be launching these bad boys next week. I'll see you out there soon.